thank everyone, Congressman Mayor, for coming and sharing what we're doing for the environmental water infrastructure for Manchester. My name's Fred McNeil, I'm Chief Engineer of the city's Environmental Protection Division. That's really the city's wastewater utility, and we're responsible for water and drainage. And then our colleagues at Waterworks, Phil and Dave, are responsible for the drinking water side. That's really the environmental infrastructure for Manchester. Why don't we quickly just go around the room and introduce ourselves?
Sure.
And
Dave
what your
Miller,
role is?
Deputy Director, Manchester Waterworks.
Phil Crosdale, Director of the Manchester Waterworks.
Miles Johnson, Resident Engineer for CDM Smith.
Jeremy Bouvier, Water Supply Engineer, Manchester Water.
Carrie Thurman, I work for Congressman Pappas.
Colin Gately, also for Congressman. I'm Teddy Campbell. I work for the mayor.
Excellent. Erin Holmes, I'm the ARPA Coordinator at the DES. Joyce Craig, Mayor.
Chris Pappas, Manchester resident.
Well, that's what we like to hear. And,
Proud of our water, too.
and a ratepayer, and you should be.
That's
It's
right.
literally award-winning water from AWWA.
Yep.
Was noted. We put together just a little handout, so you have something to go away with, and then a little agenda here. And so I'm just going to go into Manchester's environmental infrastructure needs. And the needs are great. And again, the bottom line here is really these numbers. We project between EPD and Waterworks $473 million in the next 20 years to support our environmental infrastructure. As the mayor knows, we're actually going before the CIP committee tonight for a $55 million bond to fund us just for the next 2 years. And I just want to hit on three key themes that really drive these infrastructure needs. One is aging and failing infrastructure. You see we have all the stats in here. Between water, sewer, and drain, we literally have 1,000 miles of pipe under the city streets of Manchester. Over 200 miles is over 100 years old. So that could literally fail at any time. And for us to go in and fix that in a reactive manner when it fails, it costs us 3 to 5 times more than we do in a proactive manner. So we want to move in the direction of a proactive manner to address these because it's the most cost effective. So aging and failing infrastructure. 2 is increased regulatory compliance. That's what drives most of EPD's work. And actually, as we look down through this list, CSO abatement, that's a federal mandate. The sewer rehab, that's compliance. Wastewater treatment plant for phosphorus, mercury, that's compliance. So increased regulatory compliance drives most of our work.
And waterworks as well, drinking water as well.
Right, on
I
both
mean, like, you can talk, I mean, the PFAS is the big emerging contaminant of concern right now, and we still haven't defined how much that's gonna cost to remedy going forward. It's a big challenge. And the revised lead and copper rule, there's a lot of work that has to go into that.
And I know the Congressman's been a champion of PFAS in Washington, and again, that's great to see when I see, so I get a lot of national publications in the water industry. It's great to see Congressman Pappas' name in it,
Right.
in a national publication. So again, we appreciate that.
Well, thanks. We've learned a lot from you over the years as well, so we appreciate the expertise that you bring to the table. It's so important.
And then the third one that impacts us greatly that we are seeing this week is climate change. As you know, we had the wettest July on record. We got hammered at our treatment plant. And you saw what happened in the western part of the state. I mean, that's millions of dollars. And what happens, the infrastructure we have in the ground today was not designed, 1, for today's population. 2, is not designed for regulatory compliance with today's regulations. And it surely wasn't designed for today's climate change. So those are all the challenges we face. And those challenges we turn out to, again, $366 million invested in the past 20 years, and another $470 million to be invested in the next 20 years. So anything we can do to help push that infrastructure bill through, we'll support you. And it's funny, and obviously it's not only the city of Manchester. This just came out from Department of Environmental Services. And this is the wastewater needs for the state. I'm very proud to say, Mayor, that Manchester was listed number 1, 2, 3, and 4 to the tune of $28 million. But the state's immediate wastewater needs is a whopping $528 million. And again, the majority of utilities in the state are very small utilities, and they're not like Manchester or Nashua or Portsmouth, and they really have a hard time paying for that infrastructure. So again, any assistance we can get from the federal government would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that's the biggest need, small systems.
anything else anyone at the table want to add on our sales pitch? Even though we're preaching to the choir, obviously, so this is a very easy audience. Usually we have a whole stump speech that we go, do you have any appliance at home that's lasted 100 years like
What
these
about your
pipes?
jokes?
Oh, well, no.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the G-rated version.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, one thing I would say is, you know, for water and wastewater in particular, I mean, in terms of infrastructure, most people see roads, they feel the potholes and the bumps, and they see the bridges deteriorating, and you know, you really don't see what's going on under the street with our water mains and our sewers until we have a water main break and a car disappears in the road. I mean, those are it's mostly sight unseen, and most people take drinking water for granted. They just open the tap and expect it to be good, and in Manchester it's among the best in the country, and you know, we're very proud to be providing that for the city. But it's, you know, it's a very time consuming and costly endeavor to keep those systems going, you know, day in and day out, you know, week after week, year after year. So this is, and I'll tell you, this project out here was conceived literally decades ago. And Fred mentioned that he was working on this project in 1985 when we were planning to take water from the river and actually pump it into our watershed and let it trickle down into Lake Massabesic and use the existing plant to treat the water from the river, which it was not originally designed to do. That has, you know, there's been several iterations of how we're going to get this additional supply that we've needed for many years, and here we are finally in 2001 breaking ground and completing a project that was really conceived at least 20 years ago in its current form, but known as a need for the city for decades before that. These things don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of long-term planning and a lot of money, obviously.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah, well,
Big challenge that we have, back in the late 1950s is when we first crossed the town line into the other towns outside of the abutting communities. Today, we're the sole water supply for the town of Derry. A great part of Hooksett, through central Hooksett. All of Londonderry that gets public water, that aren't on wells. Bedford, Auburn, parts of Auburn, and Goffstown, Grassmere section of Goffstown. And now recently we've been asked, and welcome the opportunity. We've been very fortunate because we've had this project in the works for about 40 years, and we didn't know how we were going to get the funding to build this. It's going to end up being a $40 million construction project. And really what put us over the top was when we were approached by the state to provide water to the towns in southern New Hampshire, and they came up and paid the MSDC.
Yeah,
Big-
11.174
So
million.
without that funding, we wouldn't be doing this today. We probably would have still held off and gone as long as we could without, doing this project. But ever since this project became really public, we're getting a lot of inquiries, especially with the PFOAs and things of that nature. We're gonna be probably the premier, us in Pennachuck, but probably fall on our shoulders, to be the top water supplier, source water for southern New Hampshire. I would say any south of Concord and probably as far east as Exeter. It's gonna be Manchester water that's probably gonna be the source water for a lot of these communities. And as Fred said, it doesn't come cheap.
Yeah.
And you just can't do it through rates. We have one of the lowest rates in the state, but we also have one of the lowest medium household incomes for a community in southern New Hampshire, if not the lowest in southern New Hampshire. So we have to make sure that it remains affordable, not only the city of Manchester, but the surrounding communities. And to do that, we look for outside sources. Obviously, this infrastructure package will be critical for us. As Fred has outlined in his handout, I mean, this is probably conservative, what the future needs are gonna be for our water system. I could see this being expanded. It's gonna be built to be able to be expanded. We're gonna have to look for additional water sources. We can see an additional well up the banks of the Merrimack someday. We do have land, I think, to do that. And we're already extending, like I said, we're extending, we've been approached by Merrimack. Bedford would rather get their water from Manchester. Talked to Hooksett Village Water Precinct right up, and Hooksett's looking to do an extension up to exit 11. So as you can see, everything's going out, and we're gonna need additional supply, we're gonna need additional storage. In tanks usually can run $3 to $5 million, depending upon where you situate them. And it's gonna be critical that, somehow we get this funding. And the last point I wanna make is, I've been director for 6 years now, and I've been really on a capital improvement kick.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I've been doing that is if you add this project in, we've borrowed through the revolving loan fund or GO bonds, approximately $35 million, all of it for less than 2%. So, I think right now is a critical time that interest rates are low, makes it much more affordable to the users to get out there and put this infrastructure in place. And it's not just gonna sit idle. It's gonna be,
Gonna work for many decades, yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I think whatever you can do, Congressman, would be much appreciated. And half your state is gonna benefit from it.
Sure. I mean, the number of users on the system is significant, it's growing, and, I'm just really impressed with the vision that you all had back in the 1980s to, conceive of the idea of expanding capacity through a project like this. And here we are, you're sort of in the right place at the right time for the state and the need that exists in southern New Hampshire. So hats off to you for conceiving of this, but you're absolutely right. The infrastructure needs are tremendous. Fred, you mentioned climate change and what that's doing to our state. We're already seeing the impacts that comes on top of the aging infrastructure that we have, on top of the population growth that we've seen in southern New Hampshire, on top of the issue of emerging contaminants like PFAS. So we have this kind of perfect storm right now that's impacting wastewater and drinking water in this part of our state. And that's why the conversation around infrastructure needs to come to fruition, needs to get accomplished this summer in Washington. I think we should feel good about the direction that it's taking. This, after all, is the Senate's Infrastructure Week. We're seeing the bill come together in a great bipartisan fashion. I think the numbers are very strong in the bill, especially as it pertains to both transportation and water infrastructure. Just the issue of PFAS alone, there's $10 billion in the bill to deal with treating PFAS in drinking water. So that's going to be a huge step forward and provide some significant resources for New Hampshire. So we're still kind of combing through the details of the bill, but because of the advocacy of our senators in New Hampshire, I think we're in a good position. And when the Senate bill comes over to the House, we're going to work as quickly as we can to get that passed so that you all can plan these projects and understand how these dollars can be deployed in communities like Manchester. So we want to continue to connect with you on issues like CSO and some of the other things that you've been working on and helped identify for us, and where the bill might fall short. I think we hope there are other opportunities to fill in those gaps. But clearly the revolving fund is a great program, but that alone can't solve it. And I think we need to see some direct grants to deal with the backlog that exists. We get a C- for our infrastructure in this country, and it's about time we catch up. We deal with some projects and some unmet needs, create some jobs along the way, and leave our environment in a better place. So I think this is a big win-win for the country, and I'm hoping we can get a positive resolution here over the next few weeks.
And I think, one thing politically that this issue brings, it is truly a bipartisan issue. There's no, everybody agrees that the infrastructure is, the needs are there. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity to get something done.
Yeah,
From both sides of the aisle.
And I think the mayor, has been really great in terms of the way she's looked to use resources that are available to help address the infrastructure needs in Manchester. So I appreciate the way you've used those federal dollars, I think, for a
I'd like
great
to say I
local purpose.
appreciate the mayor. She's been very supportive to the water department, DPD.
We're very grateful for what you do, and when we're talking about infrastructure, I think it's also important to talk about the health and safety of our residents and residents throughout the state, because that's really what we're ensuring here, right? Clean
Correct.
Exactly.
drinking water is so critical, as
It's
you know, and it's
public
what you've
health,
been
yeah.
advocating for and what we so appreciate. And with the rescue dollar funds that we've received, we have put $5 million toward drainage and sewer infrastructure issues. And when we look at this, it looks like a small amount, but it's really a large amount, more than we've ever been able to put
It was
towards
the
something
second
like
line
this.
just out of that
Um,
allotment. I was
That's
yeah,
terrific.
very grateful.
So we know the need is great. We appreciate all that's been done to date, and certainly are very supportive of the infrastructure bill, and have been advocating for the need here as well.
Just to build on the mayor's theme, it's not only the physical well-being, it's the economic well-being of the state. As you know, our clean water is a driving engine for our tourist industry. And people flock here from all over the country to enjoy our lakes, and clean lakes and rivers. So it's, doubly critical for that.
Yep.
Erin, would you like to share anything? DES has been such a great partner throughout this. No, I pick up the phone all the time, and they're so good, and I
feel like I
pound them
call
and
Phil
pound
all
them.
the time.
phone.
Yeah, I call him.
And it's
Phil,
not the
what do you
same, it's
need?
not the same throughout New England or any other
No.
states too. New Hampshire, our relationship with DES is
Yeah.
outstanding.
So, again, thank you for this opportunity, and we're obviously watching the infrastructure bill pretty closely as well. I admittedly did not read the latest version because it was 57 pages and it was the weekend. But really, I think Fred said it, over $500 million in wastewater. Now, these are just projects that apply to our existing loan fund program. We have almost $500 million in drinking water combined. It was applications of over $1 billion in drinking water and wastewater infrastructure. And we see these funds, whether it's through ARPA or the infrastructure bill, as really kind of spanning systems from beginning to end. And so beginning, planning grants, supporting our existing planning grant programs to really set these communities and their systems up for what's to come. So you can't get more money into SRF or more money in grants if you don't have anywhere to put it or use it. So really trying to support those types of programs. And then at the far end of the spectrum is, the systems that are doing the right things, that are maintaining their assets, but, starting to look towards the future and making sure cybersecurity is all shored up and they've got a good program. Also looking at water and energy audits and implementation of those. Again, we already have programs like that, and we're looking at these fundings to support those and really try to pull more out of the woodwork, because we're going to offer more grant money. And then, like I said, everything in between with infrastructure. And so, we saw $1 billion come off the street to us in June. You were talking about the disadvantaged communities. So one of the things we're looking to use these funds for is a targeted approach to disadvantaged communities. So again, not everybody is as good as Manchester Waterworks or some of these larger communities of just doing what they need to do to get by. They can't even afford it. They can't afford to replace their pipes that are leaking. They're losing water. Their sources are going dry. Similarly, they've got septic systems that are just placed in the wrong places and impacting the environment that way. And so we're looking at a program that will provide grants to these communities, really just to holistically fix all their problems. And so now you've reduced that loan debt that they would, $2 million when it's a 50 household or manufactured home park. I can't even fathom that amount of money to pay off.
Can't do it.
It's just like, and now you're looking at your water rate or your utility rate of where you live quadruple. But these are critical projects. So we want to stand up a program that really focuses on supporting these as well. Again, I look at these funds as this kind of one time, like, let's get everybody up to par. Let's just bring everybody up, because there's an economic benefit. People get to stay in their homes. They're not being forced out because they just can't afford to live there anymore. A lot of the manufactured home parks we work in have bought their own home. They've bought their park. So they have this massive loan debt from the loan to buy where they live. And now they find out we have a $4 million water or wastewater project. So we really want to help those communities with our focus. So that's in addition to the $1 billion, because if you think about the $1 billion was, hey, we could take a loan and we'll be happy with some grant. these are communities that can't even come in. They don't even think about our programs because there's no way they can take on a loan. So we want to pull them out of the woodwork and help them. And then finally, we know there's projects out there that are critical. I mean, every time I call Phil, it's a statewide, regional critical problem that needs a solution, and maybe there's not funding opportunities available, or maybe they haven't even envisioned the project fully because there is no funding available. And we're talking about dams, dam repair, if we can get that approved as a eligible project, interconnections regionally, things like that are really outside of the box, that these funds could certainly be used for to target and make that impact across the state as well. So so that's really where DES is coming from, is to try to hit every aspect and support the programs we have, stand up some new programs, and then obviously fund and feed grant to just the infrastructure projects that are moving forward already.
I know Jim Gallagher would be happy you gave a plug for the dams.
Dams, everybody's talking about dams.
Dave has a dam project he's starting now. It's $800,000,
Yep.
small maintenance, but just to do maintenance on a dam,
Well,
it's
they have a trust
$800,000.
fund loan
Yeah.
for dams
We do.
because we don't have the same eligibility
Right.
criteria. So
Exactly.
the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund can fund dam projects, and so Manchester has a loan with us as well. So, but I think that's the big buzzword, especially with the infrastructure bill and with the ARPA funds, at least, is getting it eligible as a project. Right now, dams can't come to the SRF program, so they don't
We need to
have
get those
this.
dam projects done.
I know, and I'm gonna try to say dam like 40
taken from
times.
you.
But yeah, so I really appreciate that, and just the involvement, and especially all of our representatives down in Washington, really pushing this forward, because as Mayor Craig said, it's public health with wastewater, it's the environment as well, and it's just kind of bringing everybody up to the same level and getting those systems all on the same page, and then supporting the ones that can move forward with other stuff.
No, and you're right, and that ties in the whole social justice theme also. And again, a lot of times it's the have-nots, as you said, that are suffering with poor water or wastewater, whatever it be, or urban dwellers, again, with the same thing.
Yeah, well, and they can't even fix it, and
Yes.
so we finally find out about them when everything has failed.
Right.
Yes.
And by then it's too late, or we find out people are moving out of the community because they can't afford to stay there, and they can't afford these costs. And so we want to just keep people in their homes, and want them to have clean water and adequate sewer systems, and maintain their systems as well.
And we know we're preaching to the choir at this table, but again, if anyone needs any resources, we counted before we came in, and there's 160 years of water experience sitting around this table. And you can tell from the gray and lack of hair. And so, but please, we want to be a resource to help you. So if you ever need any
Please reach
information
out.
or anything,
Absolutely. We're there for you.
we're here to help. Anything else anyone want to add? If not, we'll do a short trip outside with, I will give kudos to Miles Johnson. Miles and I spent several years in Egypt together, about 30 years ago now, Miles, huh?
Time flies.
Time flies. And again, we were working over there on water and wastewater projects for the have-nots, and you could really see the difference.
Funded by United States Agency for International Development.
Yep.
Yep,
Oh.
that's
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
funny.
good
I
stuff.
interviewed with them.
A little bit easier to dig a trench in the desert than it
Yeah,
is here,
right.
though, right?
You'd be surprised.
We're
No, no,
downtown
you-
Cairo.
And no, and we were out in the desert, and we
True.
had to worry about, believe it or not, hydraulic uplift of tanks, and you'd never think about that. But yeah, it's amazing. But with that, I'm
Let's
gonna leave
take a
with
look.
Dave Miller and Miles. Dave, do you wanna say a little bit about this project in general before we go outside?
Yeah, I mean, this, like I said, this is a legacy project. This has been planned for many years. I mean, what you really need to know is, Manchester Waterworks is 150 years old this year, right, Phil? It was June something?
June 30th.
June 30th,
Oh,
thank you.
happy birthday.
And 150 years.
So that's not gold or silver, what's that?
And Lake,
Gold.
that's 150.
Platinum, right?
Yeah, titanium, platinum,
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway, we've known for a long time that Lake Massabesic, which has been Manchester's sole source of supply for that long, since really 1874, we started pumping water out of it, that we were going to need an additional supply. That lake is only capable of providing reliably and sustainably about a little over 20 million gallons per day. on an annual average. Right now, we're probably around 17 and a half, 18 million gallons per day. So we're close to 90% of the safe yield of that lake. So we've known for a while that we're gonna need to augment that supply. And this was even prior to, you know, the needs in the southern New Hampshire tier that we're now addressing with this project as well. It kind of helped keep it moving
Yeah.
along, if you will.
Give
as
it a
well
little-
as, right, give it a
little
little
push.
boost. So, you know, this will enable us to, I mean, if we can pump about 5,000 gallons a minute out of this new plant, which is a little over 7 million gallons per day, which will reduce what we pull out of Lake Massabesic by that amount, and roughly, and that will provide the additional water, because the water that is eventually gonna go down to the southern tier will actually come from Lake Massabesic. It won't come from the Merrimack River, because it's just connected, this is connected to a different part of our system than the lake is. They will intermingle, but the water going to Plastow eventually will be coming from Lake Massabesic. And our goal has always been, from a water quality standpoint, to match the high quality of water that we're producing at our Lake Massabesic plant, have it chemically identical or indiscernible from what we produce at Massabesic coming out of here. So our customers are not gonna perceive any difference in the water quality. And the water quality is gonna meet the very high standards set by the Partnership for Safe Water. And that was a group that came together, really kind of an accreditation as a result of, it was a little over 28 years ago when in Milwaukee there was a cryptosporidium outbreak, and over 400,000 people got sick from drinking water. You know, almost 100 or right around 100 people died from simply drinking tap water, which blew everybody's mind at the time. I mean, it just shows you how critical it is, you know, to treat water to appropriate standards, even though they were meeting the current regulations of the time. This happened, and the Partnership for Safe Water kind of got together to provide tools and guidance for utilities to ramp up their, to optimize their treatment so that, we could prevent a similar disaster from occurring in the future. And a lot of utilities signed on to this. We were part of the we were involved in the founding fathers of this movement, if you will, Partnership for Safe Water, to help to develop the guidance and the tools and the direction, and kind of reach out and encourage other utilities to do that. We just had our 25th anniversary of the partnership recently, and it's a high standard. Our water quality in Manchester, we're recognized for excellence in water treatment. We were just the 11th in the nation to receive that, and that was back in 2012. And we continue to maintain those high standards to this day. It's something very important to us, and this treatment facility was designed and built with the same level of care and attention and ability to meet those high standards when it comes online in a couple of years. So I'll shut up
Will the
now.
process look any different here than it does?
Yeah, it is a different process.
Okay.
We have what's called a conventional treatment facility at the Lake Massabesic plant, where we're pulling water directly out of the lake, which has a pretty decent amount of color and organic loading, and the water from the Merrimack River, we're actually pulling it. If you think about, I don't know what, you probably don't know much about it. Maybe
I drew this.
there we go. So
That's an
picture
engineering, it's
picture
not a diagram.
picture a 16-foot diameter concrete pipe, if you will, 70 feet tall. That's driven all the way down through the soil vertically to bedrock, and then these horizontal laterals are projected out
Like
underneath
spokes in
the
a
river
wheel.
bottom. So the river bottom's up here, and these fingers are down here, and in between is about 40 to 50 feet of sand and gravel. So when we turn the pumps on in this well, and it starts pulling water through these laterals, it's actually reversing the flow from the river down through the sand and gravel, so that it gets pre-filtered by a natural pre-filtration. So we are able to, we don't have pre-treatment, if you will, in this new plant that we do in our Lake Massabesic plant. So there, essentially, hopefully, as the years go on and we get more experience with this, we'll have that. We'll be able to realize the savings from not having to pre-treat. The water coming from that well, when we were pumping it for piloting and testing it, as clear as a bell. If you took a water glass from Lake Massabesic, you'll see the color, taste, and odor. There was no color, taste, or odor in the water coming from this well, and that is going to be polished and treated to an even higher level with this new plant.
It cost, you said about 40 million, Dave?
Yeah, all told, with all the studies we've done, the construction of the radio collector well, all the engineering, the construction, yeah, roughly 40 million.
And the mayor and the congressman will be back for the ribbon cutting when?
About 2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah, the only thing I wanna add about the radio collector well is this is it is a new technology, but it's new to New Hampshire, it's new to New England.
New to New
So a lot of people have their eyes on this technology because we're not invading the river, we're not putting a straw into the river and
No hazard in navigation.
sucking out the
Yeah.
water and fish, and this is no environmental impact at all using this technology. So I can envision well beyond my years, this type of well up and down the Merrimack River withdrawing water.
And the only thing I would qualify that is, I mean, you do need to have the right subsurface geology in order for this to work efficiently. And we were very fortunate along this section of the river to have those sand and gravel deposits. I know Hooksett is known for sand and gravel, and we're very fortunate to find that. It's not everywhere, but it's certainly worth looking. And there are other opportunities, like Phil says, to get water in this with this method. And if you can do it, I think it's worth it.
So first of its kind in New Hampshire.
I think it's one of the only ones in New England for drinking water. I know there was another one that was done, I think it was in Connecticut, but I think it was to get cooling water for a nuclear reactor or something. I'm not sure. It was for some kind of a power related use.
Yeah, I think it was in Connecticut.
Somewhere in Connecticut. But I think it was Louisville, Kentucky uses riverbank filtration, I believe.
Yeah, out in Missouri, I was
In
out there working on a site. That, I mean, it's impressive to see them out there.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And I went to visit one many years ago down in Dardanelle, Arkansas. I went down there and visited one that was under construction. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I just have to publicly thank you, because as a Manchester resident, I think we grow up taking for granted that our water is clean and tastes so good.
You guys are
And
lucky.
then
You
when
get
we-
the best
But
water in the
it's
country.
true though, then when you travel and you
It's
drink
a
from
big
the tap
difference.
in another place, it's
It's like
like,
blah.
right, right, so
Not
we
everywhere,
are
but a lot
very
of places.
fortunate here, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other questions, any other comments from anyone before a little site tour, then we'll wrap things up?
What, are you trying to get rid of us?
Great.
No, I know everyone's got busy schedules.
That's okay.
I don't have my construction.
I wore my steel-toed fancy shoes.
Nice.
So they were really
Mayor
expensive.
forgot the steel toes, but she got the busy shoes.
And they're about 90% complete. They've got an opening over there to still allow equipment access to the middle of the building. And they're putting in below slab piping right now, 6-inch and 4-inch. And that's all encased in concrete. And once we build up, that's below the slab. So it's all going out to where it needs to be going. Over in the distance here, you can see them, they're working on some of the site drainage for the area, catch basins, manholes, and they're also clearing the area over there further to the right for the future clear well to be constructed. Over in this area, they have the laydown of all the materials that get incorporated, the pipes, some of the valves and fittings, and they have some Drago boxes down there where they store equipment, whatever's needed for the site. So it's a very active site at this time. There's actually 27 individuals working on this site currently. Now at the radio collector well, where we're driving the aggregate pier piles, there's 4 individuals down there from the company that's doing that. And it's all overseen by Methuen Construction. They're the general contractor. And John Nelson is the superintendent on that. And I didn't know John before this job. We've been working together for about 3 or 4 months, but it's like we work together forever because we both see things in the same light. Get the job done. You have some fun doing it and have a lot of fun afterwards. That's great. So it is working out quite well. I think, Dave, you can agree that progress thus far has been very good.
Surprisingly good, yeah.
It's a
In
short,
spite of the challenges with, the supply chain issues that everyone is seeing, not
Sure.
just in our industry, but throughout
it's been amazing the amount of progress.
Speaking of that, I see you have all your 20-inch pipe stockpiled over there.
We're still waiting on some fittings though.
Yeah.
And that's a problem we're finding. Dave
Getting
mentioned
pipe.
supply chain. I have
Yeah.
2 other
Yeah.
projects that have various delays because of supply chain problems.
Supply chain and, you know, the
Cost.
escalating costs for materials. I mean, these guys prepared a bid probably 6 or 8, 10 months ago, and the climate, the economic climate, is much different today than it was then. So that's a challenge for all construction.
So we got a couple of years worth of work between the actual treatment facility and.
Yeah,
the
we're hoping to
pump.
start adding water to the system in about 2 years,
Okay.
or just under 2 years from now.
Dave, where does the raw water pipe where is it gonna come in from the radio well?
It's going to come in. There's another entrance right there, construction entrance. You kind of see the gates open down there. It's a 20-inch. It'll come in and connect into the on site. They've actually got part of the 20-inch. You can see that brick red pipe, that large one right straight ahead there, with all the orange
Oh,
things.
yeah, yeah.
That's the raw water coming into the plant.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And
the
it just
pipe
goes-
between is not there yet. Guy will put that in this fall, we hope.
It's Guy's job?
That's Guy's job. Yeah.
We're gonna do that in-house.
We're doing that in-house. It was a million.
The plumbing pipes, as I mentioned, there'll be electrical conduits being run prior to the slab construction going in. And, there'll be some communication. We have, if you look over here, this pipe is a 6-inch fire service that's gonna be started up. That pipe off to the left there is a 4-inch over water service coming back into the plant to service the plant itself. And there's, you can see in the distance, the 6-inch cast iron piping, that's the plumbing, and there's reinforcing steel around that. And that will be encased in concrete, all below slab.
And in the corner over there, it's gonna be where the clue.
Where that roller is.
Where the roller is, where the clear well is. The corner where you see the rebar here, that's the chemical stuff area. You see the formwork going up on that northernmost line, that's A line. So that wall placement will be going on Thursday morning, the section that they're forming up now. So we usually do 1 or 2
Yeah, I'm not sure
concrete
what the site
placements per
looked
week.
like, but it looked like they
We're
took
getting into the area now where it's
material
gonna
up
be
like
larger amounts
8
of
feet
placements.
tall, you know,
So it's probably gonna be 1 per week for the next
That's
3 or
not
4
uncommon.
weeks.
And again, this is all the sand that we talked about.
Progress.
I love